Oh
Welcome,
boy.
everybody, for Performance Boost with Betsy. We're so excited to have you here today, Betsy. If you haven't met Betsy, she is one of our premier kit coaches, and she's got a background in directing on the stage. Plus, you can catch her in plays around the Seattle area. She is amazing, so you should definitely get on her list. Betsy, welcome, and thanks so much for doing this.
Oh, yeah. I'm really excited to we have Amy here, so I'd love to open this up as a dialogue, especially if there's anything you want to chime in or bring up or ask about. But I we have a couple of topics we wanted to just mention right from the jump, and I think one of them is this idea that Sharon and I both really love, which is, we all feel like you're either special or you're not. You're either good at something or you're not. You either have talent or you don't. And I really reject that notion. And I encourage people when we're working on camera to reject that notion, because the work that we do it's not narrative as in like we're acting as a character. We're being ourselves. So naturally, as yourself, you are enough and you are lively and beautiful and you have something to offer, especially from a marketing perspective. And Elizabeth Gilbert has this great TED talk where she talks about before the Renaissance, artists, artisans, craftsmen would consider this little genius gremlin type character that would arrive and visit them in their workspace. And when he was there or she was there, whatever it was there, they were really cooking in the lab, really cooking in the studio. And then there were days when the gremlin just like, they're like, where is he? He's not here today. So I suck, or I'm not able to do this today. So the pressure was off of the actual performer, artist, however we want to put it. And then the Renaissance happened and everything became like all of the genius comes from within. Everything is your light within you, and the human being can do it all. And yes, that's true. I mean, we can combine both of these things can be true. But then what it does is it isolates people from feeling like they're capable or not based on what they feel within or what they're naturally gifted at. And I think that that's a disservice to all of us, because either you feel on one day or you feel off one day. But what's really brilliant about the work that we do with Idea Decanter is that we're able to help you find your genius gremlin within or without. It doesn't have to be all on you whether you can nail it or not. It's based on all kinds of circumstances. And to take that pressure off of yourself to either be good or not is really essential to having a good time. And that's what we want.
Absolutely. If you haven't seen the TED Talk, you should see it. But you can also read Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Big Magic, where she talks about how the inspiration like just wafts in on the wind one day, and you get this great idea. And she talks about this story about she had this idea to write a book about, I think it was like a anthropologist who goes to Brazil and like has this adventure, and she never wrote it. And then she was at some meeting in Denmark or something, and this woman was like, yeah, I just wrote this book. It's about this anthropologist who goes to Brazil and has this great adventure. And it's just this idea of like there are ideas circling around us, and you just like one's going to enter you or not, or you get to
Yeah.
maybe choose something from the air. Who knows?
Yeah. And that sort of segues into the next thing that I just wanted to chat about is about individuality and how essential and important it is to your work. And I know we all say that it's like be yourself and blah 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 blah, but like it's hard to especially when you're public facing or when you're meeting with clients or when you're making a video or whatever, like you're just trying to like, you know, be as perfect as you can, but actually perfection can be boring. So we have AI now, and Sharon knows more about AI than I do because she's taken more of a deep dive with it. But like, we all can sound the same and we can all look the same because a computer can make us all look the same. There is nothing interesting and there is no point of connection for your audience. So while we want you to be, clear and in verbal skills to be like clean enough that everyone can understand what you're saying, you don't want to get rid of a regional dialect. You don't want to lose where you're from. I mean, I was just talking about this with my husband today about, does someone from Texas ever apologize about their accent? No,
No.
right? there's a culture there. We're like, I'm from Texas. This is me. This is why I'm valuable to you because I come from this place. And then there are other parts in the US where maybe we might feel like we're hiding our accent because we don't want people to be able to identify us because we feel like it's going to turn them off. And
Mhm.
I think that's again like a disservice to you as a person, and to your clients, like, or to the broader audience when they see you on camera, when they see your content, and they can place you as from the Midwest, they immediately can go, wow, it's a Midwesterner. That's someone who's probably like down to earth. But if we
Right.
mask our dialect and we hide those regionalisms, we're not allowing them to connect to us in that way.
We work with a lot of clients who actually have, accents from other countries, or maybe English as a couple with English as a second language. And I think that they can use that to their advantage because then they have, just from the way they speak, a story to tell that's different from anyone else that, their competitors might be.
Yes.
They've got
Yes.
this more worldview. They've got, maybe some challenges that they've had to overcome as like moving to a whole foreign country. Like I went and lived in France for 2 years, and that seems like a pretty easy transition because, even though I took 12 years of French, like I will say that the Parisians mocked me mercilessly with how I could speak. But, after about 6 months of being there, I could get by pretty well, but still it's exhausting to speak a foreign language. Like by 7 o'clock at night, I was ready for bed. And to
Yeah.
think that like you've moved here, you've had to overcome like whatever challenges you're speaking a language that's different from you, and yet you can still bring so much insight into your job and into the people you work with.
Yeah. I think too, like that, like jumping off of that, feeling like we have to assimilate. There are ways we have to do that sometimes for survival and to, get through, our own cultural biases and all that stuff. But as far as marketing goes, like you want to stand out, you want to be different. So using the things that are inherently about you and putting those in the front, I think are really important and make a person special.
And Amy, you're a female financial advisor. What, all of 16, 18% of financial advisors are women. What do you think, like you being on video, you marketing with your own face, like how does that help your business?
I think it definitely makes you're more relatable to the people that are looking at your videos. And I'm just a very simple, down to earth type of a person. So you starting out talking about needing to feel special or different. I don't see myself that way. I'm just me, right? But
Yeah.
I guess getting to the point where just me is enough, and there are people that want just me because I am simple and easy to understand.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the
Absolutely.
superpower, right? The superpower
Yeah.
is finding those audience, those prospects that are just going to mesh with who you are, and you don't have to like fake it every day in your
Right.
business.
Yeah. I mean, because when you're able to just be me, whatever that is, you're trustworthy. You're automatically presenting as like someone that's genuine. And I think that that's an asset. Obviously.
Now, Amy started with us, and I will say, like, maybe your big sister kind of like outshined you just a little bit on camera for like the first video. And then you just really stepped into the process. But Betsy, for people who are just jumping into video, who are possibly, nervous about it or unsure about it, I mean, you've got such great tips that you've brought from the stage and from your work on film. What would you tell them?
I think the difference between being on stage and a lot of our clients are public speakers naturally. Like they go to conferences and they present or they present to a group all the time. So they're getting live feedback when they're presenting in front of a live audience. So you're really getting that energy from the crowd. Like, am I tanking? Is this going well? You can hear, you can see the response and feel energized and pivot accordingly to that. When you're on camera, you don't get any of that. I mean, you have your kit coach telling you like in between takes, okay, that's great. Here's a couple notes. But it can feel very sterile looking into your phone. And and also you can feel like you're watching yourself in your mind, like, how do I look? Or you can even see yourself sometimes in the little box if your eyesight's really good. So it's like there's a lot of judgment that can creep up. And when you're in front of the camera, the thing that I learned in my on-camera training in grad school is that the camera is the only thing in the room not judging you. So if you look at the camera and you think of it as your friend and you're like the person you're talking to, like it's completely like non-judgmental, just enjoying you and capturing you in this moment in your life with full open arms. And then on the other side of that lens, if you can sort of visualize your client, visualize the person that you love working with more than anything. I mean, a lot of our videos we make are to get new clients to market to new potential clients. But if you visualize your ideal client or the person you love working with, their age, what they look like, what their demographics are to a T, just every now and then, if you float that up as you're talking through your text, it automatically makes you feel more comfortable and makes the environment more friendly for you.
Amy, when you were stepping in front of the camera that first time, I know that you weren't necessarily thrilled, but
No.
but what was the switch that turned on where all of a sudden you were like, I'm okay with this. I can do this.
I think for me, I had to get to the point where I don't speak in the same way as my sister. I do have my own style of relating to people and speaking to them, and really just getting comfortable with that. And I mentioned the hand gestures. I'm not a big gesturer. I don't use a lot of hand gestures, and I have to be okay with that and deliver and connect through my voice and express myself through my voice instead of my body language, I guess. That was a big one for me, just trying to get more comfortable moving around, and because I'm not a mover, even when I'm in front of somebody, I'm not a big gesturer, except for my head. I have the head bob going all the time.
I think that's really interesting because there are people who are really expressive in their face and not anywhere from the neck down, and like that's really interesting. I know this isn't your history, and this is anecdotal, but there was this woman I listened to on a podcast who she was in prison for like many, many years. And like, you can't do this in prison, like people are going to like lock that down. So she used to be this very expressive physical person. And then as she spent time there, her family noticed that her face became the thing where all of the energy was going to. And on camera, putting it in your face is actually really valuable. I mean, look at these actors that we love and that win awards. It's all in their eyes. It's all in their face.
Yeah, when they do those close-ups and there's just like a subtle movement and it changes the tone of the film.
Yes.
It's impressive.
So yeah, we wanted you to be relaxed in your body and use your body as you feel comfortable. But it's also important to just put the energy where you naturally have it. If it's in your face, if it's in your hands, whatever.
I feel like I move too much. Like I was a dancer as a kid, and so like I'm all like, woo, all over the place. But I was watching the Actors Studio ages ago with George Clooney, and he has this really funny story. Like he was on ER. I can't remember his name on ER, but he was a star, right? Like I can't remember. And he wanted to get into movies, and I want to say it was Spielberg, maybe it was Scorsese, I don't remember, but some director was like, I could get you in movies if you would stop doing this with your head every time you talk. And if you go to the early ER like videos, you can see like every time he talks, he's got like this head thing going. But in the movies, like it's all about like stillness and letting that emotion build. And I don't know, I was just working with Betsy, was it last week, the week before? And I'm like, Betsy, I need you to tell me to stop moving because I just move way too much. Like a little bit's great, but like you don't want to be dancing around and distracting people. Especially now with like the vertical format, like you're out of frame.
And so much now with that, like to pivot on that or to piggyback on that vertical format is voice. Too. So, and this is separate from dialect. This is more like intention and tone and how we emphasize things in our speech. We can add so much personality and color by just lifting words here and there when we have a list like Roth IRAs, 529s, whatever. Like they can be like snooze fest. But if you visualize them each being a different item in a grocery cart or something, you're able to like give them color where it will land on the audience.
I love that grocery cart. And I've been using it ever since Betsy told me about the grocery cart. I'm like, anytime there's a list, like think about like you're picking out items and putting them in the grocery cart, and it works. Like people are like, oh, yeah.
Yes.
Makes
It
so
really
much
does. And it's so easy. There's no genius gremlin coming in. There's nothing within. This is simply technique. So anyone can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because a lot of times, like you've got a list of things you're going through, like Roth 401k, Social Security, blah, and it's like you could just ramble off that list and nobody pays attention if you're just rambling off that list. But if you're like Social Security, 401k, then it's like, oh, what are we talking about?
And this is where, in particular, I think women shine because we are used to using our voice in very colorful ways because we don't have as much resonance as men when we speak because of our bodies and whatever. So like we are naturally more colorful. And I think people give us a hard time with that upspeak thing that we do or like the lifting it. But when you're talking on camera, there are ways that that's actually really helpful to keep the flow of that messaging going. And you don't want to be a lecturer in a classroom landing the information so everybody can write it down. What you want to do is land the information so they retain it and repeat it and can remember it and move and have an action.
That's CTA. It's all about that call for action.
Yeah.
I know when I've got a ton of videos to do and I don't want to do them, I have to pick a fun reward to like get me through. So Betsy, what's your favorite reward that you give yourself? Well, you probably love to be on camera. Let's be honest. This is your happy place, no? Or is this stage?
I love it when I've booked the job. Yes. When I'm auditioning and filming myself for it. I mean, I enjoy it, but of course I'm my own worst critic and like, I'm in my 40s now and I don't look anything like I used to, which is a whole other thing that I have to overcome every single day. But I also like, as far as like vanity and stuff goes, I'll just say something quickly about that is we don't look at ourselves. I mean, it goes without saying the way other people do. I mean, it's like, it's insane how beautiful everyone really is, especially in America. I mean, we have like great dental, like everyone looks great. So, but what I was going to say is I like to give myself like a little reward. Like when I have an audition or when I have something I have to film, I need something to look forward to afterward. So I don't feel like it's work and I don't feel like it's the only thing that matters. So if I go, I'm going to go to this audition or I'm going to film this audition and then afterward I'm going to have I'm going to have an ice cream cone. Then I'm like, yes, I just got to get through this so I can get to that ice cream cone. So that the process of auditioning or filming or whatever isn't the only thing that matters in that moment. Or I say, I'm going to get outside, get some sunshine, go for a walk after this. That's also a big reward for me because I get to get out with my dog. When you're in the office and you're shooting with us, make sure you schedule a half an hour afterward to just give yourself a break, a mental break, because the energy required for being on camera for 90 minutes,
it's
not 90, we're not filming 90 minutes, but when it requires so much more than I think people often realize. So make sure you eat a little something before and then after schedule yourself. Don't get right on the phone with people. Don't get right back on your email, even though it feels like I got to get back to work. Like I think you get to say, I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to release all that tension that I had in my body when I was trying to film, and then I'm going to get back to work so that the experience feels positive and enjoyable.
How did you feel, Amy, after your shoots? Were you just exhausted or were you energized? Relieved.
Now, I was going to ask you though, so how do you keep up your energy, especially when you're shooting more than one video in a day, if you're trying to knock out a couple at a time and
water,
totally different topics, maybe.
Yeah.
So different emotion or energy level that you need to bring to the content. What are your tips for that?
Yeah, so it's like riding waves. Like when I'm doing a 2 hour play, the character is going through tons of different emotions, and each one requires every fiber of my body. So whether or not it's a love scene and I'm falling in love and it's happy and it's easy and it's breezy, or I'm getting broken up with and I'm sobbing my face off, it's the same amount of reserve that I have to find. And I think, but what gets me through and doesn't exhaust me is that I'm playing that moment. So when you're on camera and you're talking about something that's like legacy building or whatever, estate planning,
Or
it's a
death of
little
a
bit,
spouse, that one's always hard.
Yes.
yeah, these are like heavy topics. You can lean into what is required of you with the subject and take it in a tender way, take it in an expert way. You're supposed to be putting your client at ease when you're talking about that stuff. You're not grieving with them. You're putting them at ease that I'm going to take care of this for you. I'm going to handle all this information, all these documents. I'm going to help your family mediate through this. And when you take on that role, that character of mediator, of putting them at ease, it gives you energy in the performance. And then in your next one, if it's 529s, college stuff, people are stressed out, how am I going to afford this for my kid? It's different. It's not putting them at ease, it's getting them organized. I'm going to help you organize. So your energy comes from being the person that's overseeing the project for them. So it's like, it's a different type of messaging, different type of energy, different type of emotional connection that you're trying to make with them through the script. But you'll naturally, your adrenaline will match it. And then it will come across on camera and you'll actually be able to stay in those shoots.
And I also think like when you know you've got to shoot and you've got like some heavy topics, like that's when getting that energy projection zone before you shoot can be really valuable. Like not just like rushing from like some work related item and just jumping in front of the camera, but taking 5, 10, 15, 30 minutes, whatever you need to like get outside, get some vitamin D, breathe, relax, stretch. One client I know likes to sing because it kind of like warms up the vocal cords and kind of makes them happy. There's so many things you can do just to kind of relax your mind a little bit, get some energy back into your body. I know like when I'm sitting at my desk all day and I finally get up and I'm like, oh, my back, and I have to like walk around a little bit, because we're also like, we're tied to our computers now. But just taking those minutes to center yourself, breathe, close your eyes for a minute, get some tea, some water. I don't recommend energy bars because they dry out your throat. I had a client once, he ate an energy bar right before and he could not drink enough water to like spit out his script. It like just dried up his whole vocal range completely. But like having some, like I used to, when I did voiceover work, I would drink some cranberry juice because it would just, that tartness would just like kind of suck up all the saliva and just kind of, and give you a little sugar rush, kind of
Yeah,
get you
green
up there.
apples do that too.
Yeah.
A couple bites of a green apple helps with like articulators.
And then when you're working with us, or even if you're DIYing, like you could shoot something. And then if you're like, hey, I want to change my location, like that gives you like 5-10 minutes to kind of like decompress from that one script and kind of get excited about the next.
One of my other favorite things is when we shoot like a founder story, um, when someone's talking about their parent that inspired their grandparent, or then when they get to the point when they talk about their own family that they have now, like there's all these like little sparks of tributes that happen in those scripts that you can lean into sense memory, which like it's like when you're thinking about your mom making pasta in the kitchen and like scraping everything to get by or whatever, like you can put yourself as you're talking through the script in that time. And it's like cool breeze, hot day. It's like, I remember that. I was a kid once. I didn't have all this pressure on me. And it comes through on camera.
Yeah, there's that idea of like, don't just tell the story, like relive the story while you're saying it, like picture it in your mind. I
Yeah.
think that's always helpful. Like if you get those visuals in your head, then it's almost easier to tell the story.
Yeah, for
Did
sure.
that answer your question, Amy? I'm not sure.
It did. I mean, those are some really great tips. It can be very difficult. And the other thing that I always struggle with is when Karen and I were doing videos together, she is very much more wordy than I am. I'm more short and to the point. So I sometimes feel like I'm not saying enough to get the
Mm.
message across or connecting. How about any tips for that? I mean, you guys are wonderful at helping us flesh out ideas that we have on content, but it has to sound like me, right?
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that because I always have this joke about like Faulkner versus Hemingway, right? Like Faulkner's super, like how many adjectives can we shove into that sentence? You know, it's that big Southern tradition. And then you got Hemingway who's like 3 words and you're done. I think like, you got to get that sort of in between. You have to give
Mm-hmm.
somebody who has no idea what you're talking about enough information, but really you just need them to get curious and then reach out to get more information. Like you don't have to tell the whole story in the video. You just need them to give them enough information so that they know enough to ask the next question.
Mm. Yeah. Also, like you made me think of something, Amy, about coworkers in the room when you're filming.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there's people there who are like your cheerleader and you like love having their energy in the room with you. And then there's other people who are just like chiming in with me as the coach, telling the person how they delivered something or how they should do it. And like, while it's helpful, sometimes it depends on the relationship. Make sure you have your team that you want around. I mean, it's really helpful to have someone set up everything with you so that takes the physical pressure off of you like having to like, you know how many adjustments we have to make just to get
Yes.
the shot right. To have someone help you set up and then just like have them leave so that you
Yeah,
can
kick
just
them
be
out.
because you're not your sister or you're not your wife or you're not, whoever's in there with you. I love the spouses that work together. Some of them, like, I hear the criticism from the spouse and I go, oh my God, as the kid coach. But then the husband's like, totally. Like they have their relationship and it works. And then other times you can see the person just shutting down. And so
Yeah.
I would really take a second to be like, do I want this person in the room or do I not? And, suss that out.
Yeah. Too many cooks in the kitchen sometimes, you know?
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see.
Oh, you had this great analogy, Betsy, that I think
Downtown.
we did not touch about. And I want you to just take a minute and talk about the idea of touching the bottom of the pool. Because I think that ties back to kind of Amy's like energy
Mhm.
between scripts. And I really love this analogy.
Well, it's like it's insane to me that like because of the world we live in, I'm like, okay, Spotify 10-minute meditation. Like what only like or yoga nidra deep rest in 5 minutes. Like I'm trying what? Like I am trying to maximize my downtime. And like that's just where we're at. Like, and the pendulum has got to swing, right? We're all gonna like freak out in 5 years and like everything's gonna be better. But in the meantime, I've had to find these ways to clear my mind and clear my head and wipe that slate clean. And I have this analogy of, when you're swimming in like a 12-foot deep pool and you touch the bottom and then you spring back up, it like gives you this sort of rebirth as a person. Like I did it. I went to the bottom and I came back up. Finding things that help you access that sort of relief of just touching the bottom of the pool, whatever it is. If it's backing away from the computer for 10 minutes before you shoot, or sitting there and doing deep breathing, which sounds really silly, or just like going up to the coffee machine and making yourself a cup of coffee. Just touch the bottom of the pool. Do something to get yourself out of it. Get on Instagram, watch puppy videos. I don't know. It's like whatever works to sort of give you a sense of achievement and cleanse before you begin is always helpful. Yeah.
Awesome. Those are great tips. I love that.
Yeah.
Anytime I can make myself a cup of coffee, it's always a good day.
I know. Doesn't it feel luxurious too? Because like if you're a caffeine addict like I am, I'm like, oh, it's coffee time. It feels like it's my time.
Exactly.
Rather have coffee than wine any day.
Absolutely. All right. Our next AVA is going to all be about using vertical shorts because there's a whole bunch of hoops you kind of have to jump through as a financial advisor that YouTube and LinkedIn do not make it easy for us. So if you are considering doing some vertical short format videos, if you're already doing vertical short format videos, join us June 26th. We're going to talk about why you need them, why they're working. We're going to talk about the difference between horizontal versus vertical, especially in the social media landscape, and how to stay compliant on YouTube, because, oh my goodness, they don't make it easy at all. It is a very manual process, but we'll walk you through that. And just because you're doing vertical short videos doesn't mean you can't use them on your website, doesn't mean you can't use them in email. And we're going to show you what code you need to get them onto your website and into your email marketing. So it's June 26th. It's going to be 9 o'clock Pacific, noon Eastern. So if you're on the East Coast, come get your lunch and learn how to use those vertical shorts. Amy, thank you so much for coming. It's always good to have at least somebody to talk with, and thank you so much for your insight.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, ladies, for your information. That was great.
Thanks, Amy. It was nice to meet you.
You too. You too. You guys have a good rest of your day.
You too.
All
Bye.
right.
Bye.
Betsy, thank you so much for sharing your insight and your expertise.
Happy to. It was fun.